We are live on YouTube. Welcome, welcome, welcome. As we go live on WHCR 90.3 FM radio. Got me a incredible guest today, Mr. Derek Butts. And yeah, you guys are going to be a little fly on the wall as we record live. There we go. This thing started. Do. Mic's on, you can hear everything? Cool. That's good.
I don't hear anything through the headsets.
Okay, yeah. Oh, music is coming.
Now I do.
Yeah, okay.
Is there volume control or volume control?
Yeah.
Where is it?
I got it.
Okay. So turn down just a little bit.
Turn down a little bit. That good? Lower?
Yeah.
Oh, this?
It's not adjusting.
There's speakers out here.
Okay.
So I can turn it down all the way. When we start talking, I'll turn the music down. There will be no music when we're chatting. All right, so today we're going to be talking about prostate health. I have an expert here with us, so you guys are going to be able to, if you want, you can call into the hotline. It is 212-650-6903. I know you guys are watching on YouTube, but I just wanted to offer the chance if you had questions, because I won't be able to answer the questions on YouTube. All right. Here we go.
Daddy's got your back, bringing wisdom to light. Join the movement, let your heart resonate. This is the hour, don't hesitate. Living life aglow, we're shining so bright. Tune into the vibes that'll take you to new heights.
All right, here we go on another episode of the People's Healing Hour on WHCR 90.3 FM radio, the voice of Harlem. I am your host, known in the streets and in the clinics and in the forests and in the farmers markets as the People's Herbalist. And today I have a special guest. All right, this morning we are joined by Derek A. Butts, the board president and co-founder of Prostate Health Matters. Derek is a prostate cancer and advocate whose family has experienced 3 generations of prostate cancer. After preparing for the possibility of the disease years before his own diagnosis, men become proactive than reactive after a diagnosis. Over the past 6 years, Derek has educated more than 5,000 men and their families and helped facilitate over 600 PSA screenings across multiple states. He serves on community advisory councils for National Cancer Institute affiliated hospitals in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and New Jersey, and played a key role in advocating for legislation that now provides free annual prostate cancer screenings for Washington, D.C. residents age 40 and older. He is also co-author of Prostate Cancer, A Family Affair, written with his father, a 32-year prostate cancer survivor. And outside of his advocacy work, Derek is an enterprise AI cyber resilience and risk advisor, an avid cyclist, and martial arts instructor with more than 5 decades of experience. That means he could whoop you in the streets if you walk up on him the wrong way. But Derek, thank you for joining us today. How you feeling?
Good morning, Danny. Thank you very much. I'm feeling absolutely fantastic.
Yes. So we're going to have a nice conversation. I got some questions for you, and I do want to allow the listeners, if you guys have questions, we will open the phone lines. Not at the moment, but write this number down if you guys want to call in. The number is 212-650-6903. If you want to chime in about prostate health, prostate cancer, anything of that nature, you have an expert here today with us that can answer some of those questions. But Derek, man, there is so many things to jump into in regards to this question because prostate cancer is one of those things that really plague our community, especially black men.
Absolutely.
Man, let's start off with your story though. Let's start off there.
So my journey started in 1994. My father was diagnosed and treated for prostate cancer, and at that time, wasn't really too familiar with it. I found out my grandfather actually died with prostate cancer. My father did not know it. As part of that understanding was when my father was diagnosed, I didn't find out until after he had his surgery that what he had gone through. And I thought about this. I said, as a young man now with two generations of prostate cancer, I need to better understand how this may affect me.
Mm.
And I started asking questions, and I talked to my primary care physician, and he said, as a black man, you are going to be twice as likely to be diagnosed with prostate cancer, especially due to the family aspect. So he said, we're going to start you with your PSA testing, which is a prostate-specific antigen testing, a blood test, early. So normally men don't get tested until age 50. He actually started me at age 38.
Mm.
And as part of that, it was really just tracking what was going on. Prostate cancer is one of those things. 75% of men diagnosed will be asymptomatic. They won't feel anything. They won't have any side effects or nothing. All they know, if they're tracking it, is their PSA number is rising. And I fell into that category. So as my journey began, I started in 1938. I started when I was 38, but I wasn't actually diagnosed until I was 53. And that was 15 years later. So for me, I was prepared for it. I was looking at the different methods, treatments, all those different surgeries and remedies that could possibly help me if I would be diagnosed. And the thing about it was, I was prepared for it. It's like most men are not. And I was fortunate because my father had told me about it. And having the family history between my father, my uncle, myself, and now my two younger brothers, they're all going through it. So 4 men in one family are going through this journey. And as part of that, we wanted to make sure we could help other men that are navigating this journey because it is a silent killer.
Mm. Yes, and if I'm not mistaken, this is the top cancer for black men.
It's the top, well, it's the number 2 cancer for all men in the U.S.,
Okay.
but it's definitely highly rated as the top cancer for black men, where black men are twice as likely to be diagnosed with prostate cancer than the other cultures. And because of that, in the family history aspect, we have a higher what you call incident rate when it comes to prostate cancer. Incident rate is something that the National Cancer Institute rates as far as prostate cancer per 100,000 men. So when you look at it across the board, in 2026, it's estimated that 333,000 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer. And it's broken down per state as far as what the incident rate is. And if I recall correctly, I think New York is either 4th or 5th on the list. But the incident rate standard is usually 120, kind of average across the board. But when you look at states like New Jersey, they're averaging like 141.2. So that means it's a higher incident rate, and New Jersey actually has the highest incident rate of all the 50 states that we're looking at. And you look at the higher incident rates, it's usually those states that have the higher minority culture that we're finding the higher incidents across the board. Not to say the highest death rate, but the highest incident rate, which means men are being diagnosed at a later stage of prostate cancer.
Right. Jersey is sitting at the top spot for incidents, and New York is top 5.
In the top 5, yeah.
So, all right, in our area, everybody, Jersey, New York, this is very serious, especially if you are a man, and I mean a man across the board, but in particular, a black man is in these areas. We have to be very, very proactive. I feel like far too men across the board, when it comes to some serious health issues, they wait. They ignore signs, they ignore, their body sending them signals that something could be wrong. But yeah, so today's conversation, man, I want to talk about some of these habits, building the habits to protect your health, your prostate health over time. What would you say, because there's, you think about prostate health, everybody's like, yo, I don't want to get a finger in my butt. Right? What is the biggest misconceptions?
Well, that's usually the digital rectal exam is what you're referring to, and that's something that a lot of men fear. I said, I don't want anybody violating me. but that's usually not required up front. The biggest thing right now is the PSA test, the prostate-specific antigen test, which is a simple blood test. It takes roughly 3 to 5 minutes, and what it is looking for is the protein, prostate cancer protein cells in your blood. And by looking at how that measures, usually a level of 4 is the threshold where they said something's going on. For me, it was when I was tracking it, my PSA last year, it went from a 3.32 to a 4.32. And by tracking it, I saw that incident jump 1 point, which was significant. So now I was over the threshold. And when you're looking at the and whatnot, even when I had that, the doctor still couldn't tell because I was asymptomatic. But the blood test was telling. It told exactly what was going on. And it showed it was at an aggressive pace. And because of that, men need to understand this. You're not going to feel it. And it's one of those things that move very quickly. And you need to understand and be able to track it. It's like the speedometer on you can see how fast you're going. The PSA will actually track the velocity of cancer that may be developing in your prostate.
I see. And you get a PSA screening. How often is that normally recommended?
So normally it's usually recommended annually, and it's usually for men over 50. However, in the black culture, we recommend that it get tested at age 40. And the reason being is because the higher incident rate of us being prone to prostate cancer. The other thing is if you have a family history, in some places they actually recommend you get started early, like myself. So between 38, 37, those are the numbers they're looking at. And the reason being is because it is a silent killer. If I look at some of the statistics, but prostate cancer cases, there have been cases where men have been diagnosed in their 30s, and even one as early as 25. So it's one of those things, again, it's silent, but if you have a family history, you're now more prone to it, which means you need to be proactive with it.
Got it. And some of the, I guess, tall tale signs, because I don't know, it's often asymptomatic, but urination, is that one of the things?
Yeah, there's certain things that, and everybody's going to be different. So there may be frequent urination, there may be pain when you urinate, you may be not able to fully avoid your bladder, which means you go to the bathroom but you still feel full. It's like something's in there. There could be blood in your urine. There could be problems just urinating because your urethra, which goes through the prostate, is restricted. And the different forms of either having a large prostate or prostate cancer tumor pressing up against the urethra, it just varies. Every man's going to be different. But getting it checked out to understand what that may be, there are remedies out there to help men with those particular issues when those side effects do pop up.
Okay. So side effects, or I should say symptoms and signs, frequent urination. Is there any pains associated with it?
It could be sometimes. It could be if it's usually the pain doesn't happen until if the cancer has metastasized, then people will start feeling pain in their lower back, sometimes their joints, and it's usually in that areas when it starts to spread, it will start to disseminate into different places. The lymphomatic system is one of those areas where it usually travels throughout the body to get to different parts, and it kind of lodges itself in a nice little place and it kind of expands. But everybody, again, is going to be different when it comes to how does it metastasize? Where does it go? What's the rate? And that's what we look at. You know, look at everybody as a snowflake when it comes to prostate cancer because no two cases will be identical. And by understanding that, we want men to really take a more proactive approach to understand what's happening in your body. Not necessarily what happened in your brother's body, your uncle, what's happening in your body. And the best way to do that is getting that PSA test.
I love that. That's one of the things that we live by at the People's Herbalist. Everyone is an individual, right? No matter what diagnosis or risk factors that you have, your body is going to process things differently from the foods that you eat, from the emotions that you have, from the stress that you're enduring. Everybody has a different threshold of capacities of what they can deal with and how their body's going to react. So this is definitely something that we want to make sure that we stand on top of. Man, we on WACR 90.3 FM radio, the voice of Harlem, and this is a great conversation y'all need to tap in.
3 FM, the voice of Harlem.
All right, so yeah, we are joined today by Derek A. Butts. This is a great conversation about prostate health, prostate cancer, and understanding the risk factors for our men out here. And being proactive is absolutely key. That's the best treatment is prevention. You don't want to wait till it's too late. So then you got to have something invasive happen, or you have that fear factor, right? I know that's one of those big things when anytime someone hears
Yeah.
the C word, right? Their brain goes like in panic mode.
Absolutely.
There's all kinds of different emotions. But oh man, look, we got a caller. Hold on, let's see who we got chiming in with us today. I love when people call in. Hold on one second. Hello, hello. What's your name? Where you calling from? Welcome to the People's Healing Hour.
My name is Olympia, and I'm calling in from Northwestern Richmond.
Yeah, what's going on, my brother?
I'm here, brother. I'm totally here.
Yes, yes. So you had a question? Do you want to chime in on this topic?
I do. I have a little, maybe a little bit of few questions. You ready for it?
Yes, please.
I'm a man, and I'm going to be 59 years old. I'm urinating frequently. Now, I have been told that my prostate is enlarging. The last time I got the PSA test, everything was fine. And then I took all the other tests, like the screening of my urine, and then I also had the finger exam that most men are afraid of, and I'm not, because I want to find out, if anything comes up. So I was wondering what sort of advice would the brother give me in regards to the frequent urinating, and when should I do these tests again, and how frequent should I do these tests, and which test should I do?
Well, thank you for calling in. A couple of questions I have for you. Do you know if you have a family history of prostate cancer?
I don't know, and that has not something that has stood out
Okay.
in my family. So I feel that it would have come up at some point, but no.
What about a family history of breast cancer? And the reason why I bring that up is the BRCA1, BRCA2 genes that are shared between the breast cancer and prostate cancer are similar. And what we're finding is men who have a family history of breast cancer in their family are 21% more likely to be diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Um, no, the answer is no. There is no history of that.
Okay. Yeah, the other thing, I'm not a doctor, but when frequent urination also could lead to something, diabetes. Getting your A1C checked to make sure your numbers there are working properly. But the other thing is looking at the flow, because the frequent urination, it could be, let's say, I don't know if you've been diagnosed with BPH or benign um, prostate service, where it's usually an enlarged prostate. And that's something that men would usually experience. There's some other symptoms that are out there that you can actually look at, and usually talking to your primary care physician or your urologist will give you the best remedy of some treatments that are out there that can actually help you with that.
What I would say about that is that I have had um, the test, and the test did indicate that my prostate was enlarging, but it was not cancerous at all.
Okay.
But yet I see that as I'm getting older, and I'm urinating frequently, and uh, it, it's bothersome, to say the least.
Right.
Yes, there are some herbal remedies as well to be supportive for prostate health. A couple that sticks out in my mind that I have heard good reports and seen some very positive reviews statistically. Saw palmetto is one that I've heard really good things about, and another one is nettle. But also, nettle is it's just a powerhouse of herbs across the board for mineral vitamin intake. This is for immune balancing, but also a lot of anti-inflammatory behaviors. But at the same time, is also a pretty well-known diuretic. So there's there's some pros and maybe some potential cons when it comes to the frequent urination with the nettle. But saw palmetto is definitely something that you might want to look into. And I'm the people's herbalist, so if you need something, I got you.
Well, I want to thank you guys so much, because just recently I did have a men's gathering with orthopedic herbalist, and this is one of the subjects that I did want to speak about. And I know for the next one that's in Nicholas, Brooklyn, I know men are concerned about this, including myself, and we need to make more awareness. We're aware of these things, then that's when the prevention comes in and the help that you need. So thank you so much for tackling this very, very important subject.
Appreciate you for calling in. Omar Omziel Healing Sanctuary, man. We appreciate you tapping in and being brave enough to ask these questions on radio for other men to hear. This is very, very important to know. So appreciate you and appreciate all the work that you do in our community, especially for men. It was a pleasure attending this event and having conversations with men that wanted to rise, wanted to be better. In Nicholas, Brooklyn, shout out to Monique one time for having the 50 years and running of a black-owned business in Brooklyn, facing gentrification and all that, and still keeping her doors open for men and all people, to be honest, to come in there and learn and grow and have access to wellness and good vibes. So, Omar, appreciate you calling in. We'll tap in with you, man.
Thank you so much, and perhaps you could have the brother come through and speak to the men if he's available and if he's in tri-state area.
Yeah, I'm actually in the tri-state area, so check out my website. It's prostatehealthmatters.org, and that will also give you an access to get a hold of me so we can schedule something.
Beautiful. Okay. Wonderful, guys. Continue. Peace and love always.
Peace, peace, peace. Thank you. Oh man, I love that. Yeah, you answering questions out here. Yo. Look at you. You're over here making people's day, giving us some direction, some guidance, some assistance, right? But also, we want to make it clear, on the People's Healing Hour, we talk about health and wellness, but this is not to be misconstrued with medical advice or diagnosis or treatments of any kind. This is real people in the field doing real work, listening to other people and sharing that information. Tap in with your trusted medical professional. That's always the goal.
Absolutely.
And make sure they're trusted, all right? Make sure you got somebody that is reliable. Not all doctors are built the same. But man, speaking of doctors and interesting information and sharing this, one thing that I saw that was hilarious and also empowering was this Harvard study. This Harvard study. Men take notes. You guys are going to want to share this with your wives. But the research from Harvard has reported that men who ejaculated 21 or more times per month had about a 30% lower risk of prostate cancer diagnosis compared with men reporting less frequent ejaculation. This is an observational association rather than proof of cause and effect, but I'm going to choose to interpret these findings as valid and factual. But you've heard this before.
Yes, I have. I heard it actually last year. It came out. It was one of the doctors. I was working with a pharmaceutical company in the Maryland area, and they talked about this study at Harvard with the men. And they were talking about it in the realm of how can you help to prevent or reduce the chance of getting prostate cancer. And this is what the topic came up as. And I thought it was interesting because men are always asking, how can I prevent or put off the possibilities of me being diagnosed with prostate cancer? One of the things with the study you just mentioned is one way, but also environmental conditions play a big part of it. So if you look at things such as the water, the air, stress, smoking, all these different factors actually play into your body, what surrounds your body and what you put into your body. So those kind of things will either help increase it. And we talked earlier about healthy eating. One of the things with my journey also was when I was 2001, I started eating clean. I gave up red meat, pork, and I wanted to make sure I had the best possible life going forward. So I was eating clean. I did vegetarian for a while. That didn't last too long. But then I went back to pretty much being a pescatarian, just a fish diet. I was, as a martial artist, I was teaching 3 martial arts classes a week. I was doing roughly 100 miles a week on my bike. And the clean eating helped me to prepare for my prostate cancer diagnosis, but also prepared for the journey of quality of life after the prostate cancer procedure. And I want men to understand that it's a journey, and what you do beforehand is going to help impact how the results will be afterwards. And this is one of the things that men need to understand. Sometimes there are environmental conditions that you're not going to be able to control, but you need to understand them. Understand the challenges that exist within your community, understand the challenges that exist within your family, ask the questions. And by doing so, it will give you a better framework to understand what do you need to do to help overcome it. I talk about this from a resilience point of view and helping men establish a resilience mindset. And I say that because with me, I knew it wasn't a matter of if I was going to get it, it was just a matter of when I was going to get it. And by preparing for it, when I did have my procedure, I had a quicker recovery. I had a better quality of life. I didn't have the side effects you hear about men talking about with erectile dysfunction or continence and stuff. Those were very minor. And by having it, preparing for it, the doctor said you are a good specimen of health because your recovery is a lot quicker. One of the stories I'll share with when I had a radical prostatectomy. That's where they remove your prostate. And in the recovery ward, they asked me, they said, well, Mr. Butts, you need to walk 1 mile around the recovery ward before you can leave. And what they didn't realize, the day before my surgery, I did a 35-mile speed ride to kind of break down my core because I knew they were going into my core. The morning of my surgery, I did 350 body crunches because I knew they were going into my core. So I was breaking down those muscles so they can be built back up. I got out of surgery, I went in at 7:30 that morning. I got out at 1:30 that afternoon. At 4:30, I started my walk. I did a quarter of a mile, I did a half a mile, I did 3/4 of a mile. Nurses came right in, oh, Mr. Butts, you're moving too fast. He said, can you slow down? I said, you don't understand, I'm ready to get out of here. I've been preparing for this day. And they said, well, we appreciate that, but can you give us till tomorrow? I said, not a problem, not a problem. Next day I got up, I did another 3/4 of a mile. Mr. Butts, we see you're ready to leave. We're going to discharge you now. But that's the preparation, the mindset I had. I knew I was going to get through it because I prepared for it.
Preparation. That is always the key. That's the key in everything in life, right?
Absolutely.
Business, health, everything. Just your daily existence. Failing to prepare, failing to plan,
Yep.
is planning to fail. So having, I guess, the wherewithal to know that's a superpower,
Absolutely.
I believe. More so than a lot of other things. That's what makes Batman so special, right? He just is prepared for all angles and all the things that can potentially happen.
Yes.
So this is a big call to action for all the men. If you have family history of prostate cancer, doesn't guarantee that you're going to get it, but it definitely highly increases your likelihood. And you should look into taking steps in order to improve yourself. And one thing, Derek, that you had said, a key word that I love to reiterate and sing from the top of the mountains is resilience. That word in
Yes.
itself, right? It
Yes.
is so encompassing of what is necessary. What made you use that word as the core premise for your conversations?
I've had a resilience mind college. It was one of those things I always looked at the challenge in front of me, and I thought, how can I overcome it and make sure I'm on the positive side, the best side when I'm on the other side. And by looking at it forward, visualizing where I wanted to see myself down the road, I was able to put the steps or the necessary measures in place to help me get there, knowing that we're going to be some pitfalls and challenges along the way. And seeing what my father had gone through, my uncle had gone through, I said, I'm going to be ready for this. And by doing that, it was one of those things I was mentally and physically preparing for this journey. And I knew it was going to happen. So when age 38, checking my PSA every year, seeing the anomaly jump up 15 years later, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted a radical prostatectomy. I knew I wanted a quality of life. There were other things that were out there, and they said, somebody asked me, so how do you prepare for this, and why did you choose that particular procedure? And I said, well, picture this. Picture your prostate as a flower pot. And within that flower pot, you have a dandelion that's growing. And as that dandelion just breaks the surface, it's now detectable. That's considered stage 1 of prostate cancer. As that dandelion stalk continues to grow, it gets to a point where it stops. That's stage 2 prostate cancer. When the bulb begins to form with all the little seedlings and whatnot that taking place in the flower, and I look at that as stage 3 of prostate cancer. Everything's still contained, but it's still the cancer. When that flower opens up, now those little white things start getting into the air. Those are the prostate cancer cells entering your bloodstream. That's stage 4. Now, men can always choose to take out the dandelion, but the problem is if you don't understand the dandelion's roots can grow as deep as 2 feet. So if you don't get the root, it's going to come back. I chose to remove the flower pot, which means my chances of it coming back were very small to none. And by having that mindset shift and that resilience, what can I do now to make sure I have the best quality of life? I didn't want to have to keep having to track it. I didn't want to have to keep having to go back and get tested to make sure it wasn't still popping up or something that could probably occur later on. And I knew, based on all the research that I'd done before, men that could go through the first 2 years with no increase in your PSA number is good. And if you get to 5 years with no increase, you're not going to die of prostate cancer and it's not going to come back. And that's the kind of resilience I wanted to do. What can I do to make sure it doesn't come back?
I see that. I like it. And one thing I want to highlight for our listeners is the procedure that Derek decided to take was a decision that he had planned out with clear understanding of what his plans were going to be before and afterwards. And the procedure is not the main point. It is the preparation
Yes.
of your health beforehand and afterward that I want everybody to make sure you're focusing on. He's cycling. He's eating clean. He's teaching martial arts. By the way, which martial arts have you taught?
The one I taught the longest was Tang Sudo. I was in that one for 23 years. Tai Chi and also self-defense techniques, but I've trained in 7 different arts over the past 52 years.
Incredible. So there is a high level of athleticism and movement and activity and blood flow and healthy living, which is I think that's the core premise of
Absolutely.
your resilience.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a call to action. Make sure y'all go out there and move your body. Get on a bike. Do some jumping jacks. Shadow box. Something. we got to move a lot more because that's one of the biggest issues. You know, we got an obesity problem. We
Yes.
have a sedentary lifestyle problem in our society. And I think that is probably one of the biggest drivers of all of the cancers, but specifically, we're talking about prostate cancer today here on the People's Healing Hour on WHCR 90.3 FM radio. And man, I gotta always give the radio station a big shout out because it's been here for 40 years. Community radio, been here for 40 years. So if you guys find value in what we bring to our communities, to the people from Harlem and beyond, because we do now stream WHCR.org and the People's Herbalist YouTube page, you can find some of our recordings as well. But if you guys find value, please consider going to WHCR.org and dropping a couple dollars because we here nonprofit community radio station and we are funded by the people because we are for the people. We don't have any corporate overlords. We don't have any political sponsors, so we can talk how we want to talk. Don't have to worry about offending anybody, but we just keep it real here. And this is one of these conversations that when we're talking about the big C word, we're talking about cancer, we're talking about our black men's health, and we're talking about these potentials that happen in silence where you don't really experience a lot of the side effects, not a lot of the pain. You don't really know, but you got to get checked. And I know we have epidemic of fear from going to the doctors, and for good reason. You know, there's definitely been some bad precedents set over many, many years, especially for black men and doctors. But we cannot allow history and fear to prevent us from doing what is best, right? There's reasons to be cautious, and I'll never tell you just walk in there and blindly believe whoever. That's why they say get a second opinion, right?
Right.
But we have to do better in having some understanding, taking the steps, right? If you, like we had a caller this morning, he called in, he said, hey, look, I'm experiencing these things and I'm looking for solutions. Don't ignore symptoms and signs from your body. That's the most important thing. But also don't just assume that everything is hunky dory for all these years, especially if we live in the tri-state area. There's stress everywhere. I mean, living in the modern time, now we are having access to everybody's business, everybody's war, everybody's problems. And we seeing these on screens and news stations and social media. This causes subtle stress on our mind. And our mind is the seat of all healing. It's also the driver of a lot of illnesses and diseases. If you are constantly in a state of fear and panic, there's a good chance that you can manifest some illness just by the energy that impacts our anatomy, which I love talking about because I feel like this kind of gets left out of the Western medical conversations. You know, our emotions are, they can be pathogenic,
Yep.
you know, and fear is definitely a driver of certain dysfunctions. It weakens our immune function, it weakens our digestive. Oftentimes, it makes us not sleep that well. And you already know what happens when you don't sleep. So, man, it is key and critical for us to be well intended when it comes to our health. There's nobody going to take care of you better than you. So, be proactive. Get out there, move your body, and, you know, take some herbs. Breathe deep. Go in nature. Fresh, clean water. Cut out as much junk as you can. We have a food addiction problem, I like to say, in our country. We are overindulged. You know, the 3 meals a day, a lot of calories.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of strain on our bodies across the board on average, right? Not everybody, and we don't judge. All right, number one, we don't judge people, but we do want to make sure that our behaviors and our actions definitely play a part in
Yeah.
what we may need down the road. So,
And part of that, Danny, is just to expand on what you said. We want men to take control of their prostate health and really focus on those things are important. And one of the things that prostate health matters, we developed is kind of a framework. What does that look like? So if you used to use the word control and break it down based on the letters, if you look at C, C is checking and knowing your baseline. And this is one of the things I mentioned earlier on is knowing your PSA number. By knowing your PSA number, you can track the velocity of change of what's taking place in your prostate. As mentioned, 75% of men will be diagnosed asymptomatic, which means they're not going to feel anything. And we want men to understand what's going on before they feel anything, because if they feel anything, it's going to be too late. Something else you mentioned about communication, we want family members to go back and ask their prior family members, their uncles, their aunts, their grandfather, parents, what's the family history of cancer? Understanding that's going to help you figure out that resilience mindset. So what do I need to do that is coming? The other thing, if you look at own your prostate health questions. When you go to the doctor and the doctor says, is everything okay? And you say yes, when you know you're getting up in the middle of the night and you're urinating 3 or 4 times, or you're having pain when you urinate, tell him the truth. Be direct with your doctor and ask him. A lot of doctors, and I'm not all, but some will get you in and they try to get you out. Ask to spend time to address your questions and concerns when it comes to your prostate health. If we go to N, N is never settle. For me, when I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, I was diagnosed at a urologist who was also, and